Good morning, Americans. This is your favorite alien on the morning of Tuesday, September 12th, 2023, sitting in for Paul Harvey this morning. Stand by for the rest of the story. Well, the rest of the story today is on air conditioning. Yeah, the story goes air conditioning started with Willis Carrier in 1902 when he invented the first air conditioning unit. Yeah. He was sitting in his room and it was a blistering hot day in 1902. People came in and he was nice and cozy, and it was outright freezing in that room, so they say. Air conditioning. Willis Carrier. He is considered the father of air conditioning. Yeah, but did he start the first air conditioning? Well, the first artificially machined operated doohickey air conditioning, probably yes. But the first person to actually develop air conditioning, no. That happened, 300 years or so, almost 300 years or so before him. Actually, if history is correct by Mr. Paul Harvey, South Carolina is where air conditioning was developed. And for you people, listen closely, Americans, especially some of you will like it, some of you won't, but it's the actual truth, according to Mr. Paul Harvey. Immigrants are responsible for air conditioning. And he said immigrants, okay? Remember that word, immigrants. That's the way Mr. Harvey said it in the story. And it happened sometime in the 1670s, 100 years before the American Revolution. And what happened was immigrants that came around, because it was hot where they were from, they would build their quarters accordingly. And one time they were doing their work and their master came to check. And he liked the way the work was going on. He was a good master. There was very few of them in South Carolina. Well, it was really the Carolinas, because remember, it wasn't until 1712 that North and South split, okay? So in the 1670s, it was still called the Carolinas. And he noticed something interesting. He came by after work, and he noticed that his workers were having a deserved time off. And they were sitting there nice and comfy. And he didn't understand why, since he was all dressed up and he was roasting because of his clothes and it was hot. Oh, and you guys from South Carolina know what I mean about hot. Yeah, that's why you guys from South Carolina have a dubious reputation, don't you? Oh yeah, remember? you guys have a dubious reputation of starting the Civil War and calling the Compromise of 1820 null and void. Yeah, so that's why your state has this dubious reputation. But it should have the reputation of being the home of American air conditioning, because that's where it started, air conditioning. And what it was, Americans, is the immigrants, well, they were immigrants, but they were also Africans and they were also slaves, okay? But they were allowed to build their quarters as measly as they were, and they made it as habitable as they could at the time. But they had something that their masters didn't have: air conditioning. And how do you have that? Well, they had something that masters didn't have in their home until late in the 16th century, the 70s, and beyond. And it's what you call today in South Carolina a front porch with ventilation. That you, the guy, like I said, the owner went over there to check, and he was sitting there nice and comfy, rocking in a rocking chair, and his owner was roasting to death, and he couldn't go back home because it was worse than that. Well, soon after, his owner went over there and asked him, how come? And he said, well, this is the way we built our houses. And the owner called it a porch, front porch. And later on, in the early 1700s, it became known as the Birmingham, the all-around porch. And that was developed in what you called Alabama. A couple decades later. But no sooner had that the owner commissioned a house for himself with a front porch. And he tore that house down that he had. And the house that he commissioned, became the standard for today's otherwise known as antebellum homes with the front porch, or today they got the Birmingham porch, yes, and air conditioning to make it nice and cozy. And he made the house the same way as the other guy so that it had air flowing all through the house, so it wasn't as hot as it could have been. And now, you know the rest of the stories. You African Americans, you invented, or your ancestors invented, American air conditioning. Sitting in for Paul Harvey, this is your favorite alien. Good day.